Well, that message came through loud and clear. And I would like if you could explain to the audience what was at the issue of the debate when you stood there and gave that powerful commentary, that pushback at the microphone. What were you all debating in the Missouri State House?
Sure, and of course, I wasn't going to speak on this because again, my wheelhouse is education. But they're not going to play in my face. We were talking about eliminating 100% of Missouri's capital gains tax, which unfortunately was successful. It is on the governor's desk as we speak, and I grow weary of this notion of you know we have to support investors taking risk. We have to pay back student loans. That was a risk to give poor 18-year-olds thousands of dollars in student loans. And the president said he's not going to make taxpayers pay for that risk. Why should we have to pay for investment risk? But what bothered me in particular is that for years, Democrats have been trying to eliminate the pink tax. Taxes on tampons, pads, other sanitary items, diapers for adults and children, as well as give seniors a break with their circuit breakers to lower their utility cost. And every year it's failed. So they put a little, what we would call, if it was on a ballot candy, legislative candy on there to sandwich in the fact that we're doing something else for individuals who have the means and should be paying their fair share, to package it in their messaging, which, as sinister as it is, Republicans have this down, but to message it that, oh, Democrats are the ones who voted against working people. They're the ones voted against the pink tax, without saying that upwards of $400 million are going to be on the backs of individuals who, earn value with their labor.
Wow. So this to me reminds me of what happened after the George Floyd protests kicked off. And here in New York State, we had this legislation we've been fighting for a really long time, legislation to repeal this rule 50A, which basically allowed for the police precincts to keep bad police officers' disciplinary records quiet. Had been fighting for it for years. Organizers had been organizing. There had been legislation drafted. Never got passed, never got into, not a vote. They pushed it back. But as soon as they needed something that they could tie this to a win, they said, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and pass repeal 58. And what it sounds like you're explaining, and I just want to make sure I'm repeating to you back what you have said to us so that we're all clear with the audience. There has been this pink tax that you and the Democrats in Missouri have been fighting for a long time, years. And it wasn't until the Republicans needed a way to legislatively provide some benefits to wealthy people that they then took this pink tax effort, rolled it and wrapped it in this other effort that the Republicans were trying to put forward, and then basically dared you all as Democrats to vote against it so that they could have marketing material against you in your next election and say the Democrats voted against the pink tax, even though what you would have been voting against was the unearned and undue over benefit that would have been going to already wealthy people in Missouri. Is that right? Am I understanding you correctly?
You nailed it. And yes, they've created a tax shelter. That at the end of the day is what this is. But yes, ma'am, they do that. Republicans tend to do that with all of the things. I sponsored the Crown Act for years, for 5 years. It is currently on the governor's desk on a horrible bill. It's daring me to vote against it, and I did.
Wait, you voted against it?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
Say more about that, because what usually happens is that's the end of the story. Republicans do this little trick of the trade and then Democrats fall in line. You voted against the package that contains the bill you had advanced.
My own bill. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Say more, because there are right now state level elected officials all across the country who are like, what? Explain how that happened. That is one.
I'm Pentecostal raised, and I believe it gains a man absolutely nothing for us to have our names in lights and to lose our soul. The underlying bill is absolutely horrific. It would allow for hate groups to organize on college campuses under the guise of protecting their First Amendment rights. Wow. It was and this is something we've been packaged, but of course, I'm actually shocked that they allowed me to get that amendment off, considered how they stand with DEI. And I had to do some real mental gymnastics with that to say, you know, if you believe that children should be able to exist and go to school the way God made them, with them being so profoundly anti-trans, that, you know, sparked something with them. And I want people out here to know that this is what this is. As gross as it may sound, but this was just, it was too far for me. And and it's not the first time that I've voted against my own legislation. You know, I don't have to have my name said. God has blessed me in the 7 years I've been in the legislature, that if he didn't do anything else, that he's done enough as far as, you know, my name is being said. But yes, ma'am, it's sitting on the governor's desk on a horrible bill.
It feels like, if I can divert from politics for just a minute, you mentioned that you were Pentecostal raised. I feel you walking in anointing. I felt that anointing when you were speaking on that floor. And I was like, I didn't know what your religious affiliation was, but to me, anointing it exists regardless of any specific denomination or group. And that to me is a source of power that we don't often see being used for good. A lot of times we see religious backgrounds and upraising to take rights from other people. You are walking in what feels like a different level of truth and integrity. I'm wondering if this is something that you are doing as an individual, or are there other Democrats that are sort of seeing this trick of the devil, we're going to call it that, and calling it out for what it is and engaging in similar votes against their own legislation? Or I'm trying to get a sense as to how widespread that practice is, at least in the Missouri State House.
It happens rarely. Again, in the past 7 years, I've had the privilege of serving as the only Democrat committee chair for 4 of the 7 years I've been in office. I've been I believe the only one, myself and one of the senators this year, who have had standalone bills to make it to the governor's desk. That's not the only one, because we're such in the super minority. So a lot of individuals won't have a chance to. I literally went on and around my side of the chamber telling my members that I am okay with them voting no on this. I will not be mad. You know, typically we want to support our own members' bills. I let it be known, if you have to vote present or no on this, it won't bother me any, because it's 111 of them. And if they want this bill passed on its merits, then they can do it themselves. And it's interesting. I had a Republican tell me that I have a speaking cadence of a pastor. Whatever works, whatever works. We have those church offs and scriptures offs and things like that. You know, I really hope that some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle believe in the hell that they tell everybody else is real.
Ooh. Or maybe they feel more like they're building hell on earth for them, so they're not going to worry about the afterlife. We were talking about the state of Missouri earlier today, because after a lot of effort to restrict access to abortion in the state, Missouri voters got Amendment 3 on the ballot and successfully passed it. And we were discussing this today because we're now seeing that the Amendment 3 was so well done. And shout out to the organizers on the ground, that you now have Republicans in the state of Missouri fighting for Roe versus Wade, because Roe versus Wade was a lesser, it gave them more opportunities to sort of play around with reproductive justice than does Amendment 3. And it feels like, Representative Proudie, as much as we are in a state of real repression, a real oppression, suppression, depression, repression, that we're also in a moment where the fight back is coming, where I'm going to say my wheelhouse to say my lane, but I'm going to get up on the mic and I'm going to say something, because the record needs to be preserved. Are you approaching this? And I'm speaking not only from a political science perspective, but from an energetic, maybe spiritual, whatever you want to call it, insight sort of perspective. How are you seeing the stirrings of resistance right now? Missouri is one of those states that we often look to, and it's like, oof, it's a hard road to hoe, as my grandma would say. I've used that phrase a couple of times today. But what are you seeing on the ground in Missouri? Because I think what we're seeing at the national level isn't necessarily capturing what's happening at the state level. Talk to us about what you're seeing in your district, what the resistance looks like from your voters and from voters around your state.
Black women, period. Black women, it's us. And not to say no one else is doing anything, and I hate to overuse the whole 92% thing, but it is absolutely us. What bothers me, just in the grand scheme of things, is Black women are the cornerstone of the party. We're always the cornerstone, never the glass ceiling. And so, as usual, when we see something amiss for the good of everybody, sometimes at our own expense, we pick it up and do what we know to be right. Because if no one knows in this country what being oppressed feels like, is people who live within that intersection of being Black, being woman, and God help you if you have any level of disability, or poor. And so because of that, we don't want, if you've ever had those experiences, you don't want that for anyone else. And so that's why we pick up, and that's why we fight. We understand what it's like, seeing what's happening in Georgia with our dearly departed sister, God bless her family, who's being kept alive to be a host, almost like a science experiment that happens at our expense. And it is absolutely terrifying, and it shakes me to my core. And because so much of this regressive, oppressive legislation is at the expense of Black people and Black women in particular, we don't have a choice but to fight. Is the only way that we survive. And so that's what I'm seeing.
Points were made. Points were made. And the challenge is, I think what a lot of Black women are experiencing right now is this tension between, we rested. Y'all screwed up this election, you screwed up this country, so we rested. But I have been the itch to get in the fight and to do the work, because that's a part of our nature. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of our DNA. We see problems in the world, we want to fix them, because that's the sort of people that we are. And what I've been curious about is to what that's going to look like in an era where we are not necessarily tying our protest, tying our resistance to what other communities are doing. Right. And I've been I didn't know what that was going to look like, because for so long, our protests and our efforts were tied in many ways to other communities getting allyship and support. And I think having the ultimate slap in the face last November and realizing just what that meant, I think it has shifted some things in our understanding about who they are, but also in our understanding about who we are and the power that we have. And as much as I hate the situation that we're in right now, collectively, both as a nation, as us in the community, I'm also realizing that on some levels, I think the ancestors needed this to happen to snap us out of this false idea that we were working towards something that if you understand what I'm saying, y'all in the audience, if you know what I'm saying, that we were working on, they absolutely were not working on it. And so this has been a real eye-opening experience and moment. After you gave those very powerful words, what reaction are you seeing? Is there anything that gives you a sense that your Republican colleagues, these 111 of them, because you all are outnumbered to a great extent, are you seeing anything in terms of a crack in the facade? We've seen how your state senator, Josh Hawley, has been concerned about Medicaid one day, then less concerned the next day. But we're seeing that the realities of what this administration is doing at the federal level, making their way down to the states. Are you seeing anything in other communities that would give you some indication that the facade of permanency, the facade of we're right and we've got the might, and so that makes us right? Are you seeing any cracks in that would give you some hope, some optimism, something about what they are doing in other communities?
Cracks, yes. Hope, no. And it's a very interesting dynamic. This has happened the entirety of the time I've been in office, where I would have my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, after we get out of session, say, I didn't want to vote for that, or I absolutely agree with you, but I have a bill that I want passed, or if I don't, the party's going to primary me. That's what I'm saying. They'll come and almost plead with you with shame, knowing that God's grace is there, but is that, you're wrong, but I'm going to come apologize to you. They're going to do whatever Donald Trump and Donald Trump's handlers tell them to do, because one of the biggest fears is, and it's weird because we have term limits in Missouri, but they don't want to be primary, to which my response is that the people don't elect us to be reelected. They elect us to use the influence they gave us to improve their quality of life, not corporation quality of lives, not to enrich ourselves by power hoarding. And that's what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it more and more with the proliferation of social media, and just how quickly information can get out, and how quickly, even for low-level, regular state representatives on the state level, our president will get on Truth Social, call them by name, and makes their life a actual, unsafe nightmare. And that terrifies them. And so I'm not saying that to say, I understand them, because I don't. I'm the state representative of Ferguson, Missouri, the noun and the verb. And if I can deal with it, the death threats, the racial slurs, I do that because I told these people that's what I was going to do when I knocked on their door. So the lack of courage is breathtaking. But, that's between them and the God they serve, if any.